Greetings to you in the name of Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And now we'll have a look at papyri. Papyri, from which we have the word papyrus, on which the New Testament was written. The earliest copies of the New Testament were called papyri because they were written on the material called papyrus. Now, papyrus is nothing but the pith of a plant from which they made this, and on which was used as paper in the ancient times in the Mediterranean region. Okay, so now I want to discuss about the earliest papyri. Okay, so they are categorized into different numbers using numbers. You can see here papyrus 1 to 50. P1 is the name given. Classification here, the name given to papyri, which is dated around 250 AD, and it contains the Gospel of Matthew. We come here, P4, we get papyrus, 6 fragments from 2nd century, 175, containing Luke. Where is it can be found? It is now placed in the National Library of France. We'll go only to those which are from the 2nd century. And we can see here one fragment in John Ryland's Library, Manchester, where we have, which is classified and named as P32, Papyrus 32, dated around 200 AD, containing Titus chapter 1, verse 11 to 15, and 2, 3 to 8. We also have the Chester Beatty Papyrus, very, very famous, late 2nd century, extending to the 3rd century, contains a lot. Chester Beatty Library is in Dublin, Ireland, and here we have the Papyrus 45, 46, and 47, dated around 200 to 250 AD, contains Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts. And then you have earlier copies, fragment 46, containing 56 fragments, containing Romans, Hebrews, 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, Galatians, Philippians, Colossians, Thessalonians, again Romans, other fragments of the same papyrus are housed in the University of Michigan, and there's 30 fragments there, and we can see fragments from Romans, Hebrews, 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, Ephesians, Galatians, and again in the Chester Beatty Library, P47, dated around 270, contains Revelations, chapter 9, 10 fragments, containing chapter 9, 11, and 16, parts of it. It's also housed in Dublin. Then we come to the most famous of them all, the John Rylands Papyrus, P52, which is housed in the John Rylands Library. St. John's Fragment, Papyrus Rylands, Greek 457. It measures 3.5 by 2.5 inches. It is something which brought about a paradigm shift in this field of papyrology and brought credibility to the New Testament manuscripts, because these fragments of John chapter 18, dating back to as early as 100 AD, average they say around 100 to 150, even 90 AD, brought credibility to the Gospels that they were in fact early sources written much earlier than it was thought. So the whole scholarship was reversed because of this fragment, and you can see it is housed in this museum library, University of Manchester, John Rylands University Library. It's a very important fragment, early fragment. And then we go on to Magdalene fragment, fragment 64, Magdalene Papyrus, purchased by Reverend Charles Bosfield Hewlett in the 19th century from an Egyptian antiquity shop. And further research showed that it dates back to the 2nd century. A prominent fragment containing the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 3, 15, chapter 26, 5 fragments there. As you can see, this is also one of the latest findings we can say in the field of papyrology. And then again, we come here to the P66. Is importance of P66 is there's the near complete copy of the Gospel of John, which comes from around 200 AD. We already saw that fragments were seen which were from 120, 100 or 90 AD, and we have a near complete copy of the Gospel of John from around 200, and that is very, very significant. An early dating and an early full copy. Again, we have here in the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford, P77, Papyrus 77 designated. P77 is a papyrus manuscript of the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 23, verses 30 to 39. This fragment is written in Greek, and it was written in the middle 2nd century to early 3rd century date. So it's an early dated New Testament manuscript. 2 fragments have been found. It is housed in Oxford. And we come down, you're searching for the earlier dates in this column, 200s, 100s, AD. And we have here one more P90, fragment P90 from Ashmolean Museum, again containing fragments. One fragment from Gospel of John, chapter 18, verse 36 to 19, chapter 1. And that's also significant because of the date of 150 AD. It has been dated. It's a very significant find. All these increase the credibility and to put our trust in the scriptures which have been preserved. Again, P98, we have the book of Revelation, chapter 1, 13 to 20. Early copy of the New Testament in Greek, in a papyrus manuscript of the book of Revelation. It is in the second century. So again, it is housed in Cairo and the French Institute of Oriental Archaeology.